everybody in the world blind. Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like
Welcome back to another episode of Lone Star College Football. We have a Michigan versus TCU pregame showing up for the Fiesta Bowl. We're going to throw this to Jared just real quick as Michigan actually opens up as a 7.5-point favorite. I have 7.6 wrote down for some reason. Jared, what's your impressions on TCU this year?
I mean, I don't think there's a TCU fan out there that's not surprised or just pumped by what's happened. I think a lot of realistic shows, I guess, like this one or ESPN or whatever, probably had TCU at like 6 to 7 games and like 8 being like the over total.
Yeah.
I think I didn't bet, but if I did, I think I would have said 8 or 9 wins for the season. If you look at the roster and who's playing where, you have, at least on the offensive side, you pretty much had a complete carryover from last year's team, which, won 5 games, but you'd think juniors, seniors, veterans are coming in. You just like the consistency. We got a center in from SMU who's just filled in perfectly. Defense, questionable, I guess. You brought in, 5 or 6 starting transfers. So really the question was always going to be how the defense responded to the whole coaching change, because that's what happened, right? Was a huge overhaul of all the coaching staff. So I think going into the season, obviously, 8 or 9 wins was what I thought they could have done. I would have been happy with a bowl game in general. So I guess 6 or 7 wins I would have been just fine with. Once the season started rolling, you're just like, I can't stop watching. They're just I remember the West Virginia game, 50-something yard touchdown, 60-yard something touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
The offense is just fast.
TCU this year, kind of in a way, y'all remind me of Baylor from last year. I think y'all got rolling and, had so much downhill momentum, it was hard to stop, especially after the back-to-back Oklahoma State comeback and K-State comeback. And I actually have my Big 12 predictions from before the season that we did. And I put y'all at most likely 7-5, but I put that I think y'all can go 8-4. That was mine. His 8-4 was what I think y'all could do, but probably 7-5. So y'all outdid what I expected by a lot.
Well, and like that 8-4 or 7-5, you think, okay, well, who do we have lost to? OU, Baylor, and then at that point, the next 2 or 3 games that you would lose could have been Texas, Kansas State, Oklahoma State, and maybe out of those 3, TCU would have snuck a win in. But I think that would have been really reasonable going into the season too. Yeah,
and especially, because I had y'all at 8-4. I only put Texas at 9-3. We were both 5-7 last year. How much really better can I pick us to go? There's got to be a cap, but y'all got momentum and went in and won some really tough games, especially Quentin Johnston really just balled out in the second half against Oklahoma State and K-State. Daniel, we didn't do a game-by-game analysis on Michigan. Oh, wait, actually, you and me didn't we?
We did, yeah.
I don't have my notes on that, so maybe you remember
I'm just going
what you
from
thought.
Memory. I think I had us
What?
at,
Win.
I think
I
the
had
only
us
game
at 10-2, I think.
Yeah, I think the only game that I
lose
would
to
have
Ohio
had.
State and we dropped some stupid game we shouldn't lose. That's what I said. I
Which
think
there
I
were a
picked
couple
Nebraska
games this season.
actually, if I remember correctly, which was that did not age well.
Well, give us a rundown real quick on how you feel like Michigan has done.
Yeah,
obviously you're doing good, 13-0, but where have y'all struggled that you didn't expect to see, and where have y'all probably been excelling where you didn't expect?
Well, first off, I just want to say that listening to Jared talk about TCU, it's exactly how I felt about Michigan last year. Like, exactly. It's like, oh man, I'd love to make, go 8-4. That would be a great improvement off the COVID year. So it's a good feeling. For Michigan, I would say that the thing I've been most impressed by, the thing that stood out to me the most, I think I pointed it out as probably our biggest weakness in my eyes heading into the season was our secondary. And I think that might be the best unit on our team other than the offensive line. I think I'd probably put it as second best unit on the team, which I was not expecting at all. I mean, we lost a couple corners to the NFL, and I didn't feel real good about anyone coming in other than or 5-star freshmen. So the way they played this season has been just really awesome to see. I don't really. I guess I was hoping maybe JJ McCarthy would do a little bit more at quarterback. He's kind of come on a little bit in the last couple of games, but I mean, some really long passes, but still those games he's still only hitting like 50-60% completion. I was really hoping he would step it up a little more. So that's probably a weakness, I'd say.
Yeah, Michigan, the thing that stands out, and like we were talking about earlier, I didn't really get to watch. I really tried to focus on the Big 12 this year. Y'all's defense has only given up 13.4 points per game. Both y'all's offense is crazy. TCU at 40.3, Michigan at 40.1. But y'all are giving up 12.5 points less on defense than TCU is right now. So I think that's going to definitely help. And the area where it's most impressive is in the running game. Y'all's defensive run game has to be in the top handful of the college football. I mean, y'all are only giving up 85 yards on the ground per game. So, Jared, how much work does Kendre Miller got to put in this? I mean, and Max Duggan, because we know he's got some wheels on him.
Yeah. I was looking at like the spread and the over-under on this game. And was thinking I probably would have done the over-under higher because you just know both offenses can score. I know Michigan a better team, probably top down.
Yeah.
But I think you have to watch the games and know that TCU can score when they want.
Can run it up.
Yeah, we can. And
except against Texas, but we didn't really make y'all need to score, so because we suck.
And you know what? I don't mind saying that was a one-off. Great game. Loved watching it.
No,
I don't think that's one game I don't think is indicative of what they did the whole season.
Illinois, Michigan, right? We could score at will until you couldn't. In the one game, you couldn't. It happens.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
But I think the over/under. Like I said, I probably would. I would take the over.
Really?
Yeah. Well, because
I was thinking under.
What's the over/under at right now?
58.5. The spread's 7.5. So that's probably like. I mean, if you did the math, they're thinking. It's weird. It's like a 25 or 24 to 33 game, which I could see Michigan scoring that much. I think TCU could score more, and so I think I'll take the over. I think the spread's probably fine. I think you might be onto something because if you look at TCU, 40.3 points per game, and that's with a game against Texas where you scored 17. I mean, that brought y'all's average down by and then they're giving us 24, 25 points. I just don't think I'm on it. But I also don't bet, so don't listen to me. I think
me and Logan have Lone Star locks, and we don't actually put money on anything, but I'm really terrible at making these picks. Speaking of Logan, he's actually in here waiting on us, and he's going to join us right now. Logan.
What's up, man?
What's up, dude? We're actually just talking about this over/under for the Michigan TCU game, currently sitting at 58.5. I don't know if you've had a moment to even look at your picks yet.
I haven't. I have not. That's
Turn your mic kind of quiet.
Do what?
Your mic, you're kind of quiet.
Maybe I should just adjust this a little bit.
And I just barely down.
Good.
Much better.
All right. It's the first time using this.
Yeah. So we've gone. Yeah, it's at 58.5. The spread is 7.5. What were we talking? We were just talking about the run game and how Kendre Miller, who, mind you, Kendre Miller balled out all year. He's the only running back to go over 100 yards in a game against Texas this year. So he's somebody that I could root for him. He's a solid running back. I'll root for him.
I will say that Michigan's defense, you're saying it's crazy good. The only thing I think we haven't faced, because we played some good running teams, we played some really good passing teams. The only thing we have not faced is a good rushing quarterback. It's the only thing we haven't played against, and that's what TCU's got. So if I was gonna be worried about something, it'd be because I'm more than confident that our defensive line can match up with your offensive line pretty well. I don't think that Kendra Miller is gonna go crazy just trying to run it up the middle or even right on the edges. But if we're having to spy players on Max Duggan, which we're gonna have to, I don't know how the defense is gonna adjust to that. I think the personnel could, but I don't know if like they'll mentally be able to make that adjustment because they haven't seen it all year. And playoff is not really a good time to try out new new spreads. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
the thing with the TCU offense that's going to be interesting. I mean, Sonny Dykes and Garrett Riley are Mike Leach guys. So you think a lot of air raid, a lot of pass first to set up the run philosophy. And I think you've seen that a lot this year watching the games. Move pretty quickly. I think the thing that TCU has is they're fast. I think we have some serious speed, really on receivers and our running backs. And so as far as the running game, right, I think starting off the game, you're going to see a lot of ugly 1 or 2 yard carries, I think. But I would hope that the passing game is going to really open it up and that's where Kendra really just can hit you with those 7, 8 yard gains. It's just once you spread out the field and you make defenders tired by running around, which is what TCU's done all year. And so I'd be more curious on the other side of the ball, right, when Michigan has it. I haven't watched much of what Michigan does. I don't know. I mean, I know that running the ball was successful.
yeah, I just said run the ball to set up the pass, and I just said run the ball to set up the pass, and in my head I was thinking, well, we run the ball to set up the run. That's I actually mean that kind of literally. Michigan is going to run the ball 1 or 2 yards over and over until you finally give up, and then they hit you for 80 on a single run.
So that actually leads me to a question for you, Daniel.
Mhm.
Blake Corum. So obviously he's out. He won't be playing. When Edwards, what's his first name? Is it Don?
So
What's his
Corum
first
might play. Just
I thought he had like an ACL tear or something.
no, not an ACL, it was a meniscus. They think he is actually. I think he's actually more likely than not going to play in the national championship if we beat TCU. I think he's probably not going to play in the semis, but I think he'll be back.
Really?
Yeah.
Well,
this is about a 4 to 6 week recovery time.
My question is, whenever Edwards came in against Ohio State and put up 216 yards, I started thinking, okay, so is Blake Corum that guy, or is y'all's 5 offensive linemen that guy?
So my thing is, I think Blake Corum is that guy, and Edwards also is that guy, because when we saw Stokes and Gash come in, they're younger. They didn't have like all the recruiting pizzazz that Edwards did and stuff. They did not run for 200 yards. I mean, the offensive line made room and they got 4 or 5 yards when they needed to or whatever. The line is that good, but the Michigan's depth doesn't go quite that deep. Edwards just really is, I think, that good. It's kind of like how this year everyone says Corum, but last year it was like, man, Haskins is that dude. Can Corum do it next year? And then of course he becomes. Yes, I think the same thing's going to happen next year. I think Edwards is going to be 1,400, 1,600 yard rusher next year.
Wow.
So I think they run differently though, and so Michigan had to sort of. It looked a little bit different against Ohio State with Corum out. Corum will get you 4 to 6 yards in every single play, whereas Edwards, like when he did those head against the wall runs that Corum would always get 4 or 5 yards on, he was getting only like 2 or 3. But eventually, when the defense starts getting tired and they start having to push people forwards to stop the run, if he gets out, you can't catch him. And he was outrunning everybody on the Ohio State defense. And he escaped through the hole and he was gone for 80 yards. So he's much faster in the open field than compared to Corum.
Well, Blake Corum is arguably one of y'all's best offensive player. I would say. I think he's a solid back who, if he doesn't get hurt, I think he's in the. I think Stetson Bennett is out of the Heisman race, and Blake Corum, which is a whole nother conversation as to how messed up the current Heisman voting is, because an injury shouldn't. If you're one of the best and you get hurt the last 2 weeks of the season or whatever, that shouldn't matter. For TCU, other than Max Duggan, and Keon. I mean, y'all's offense is pretty high powered. I've just got to say this because it's going to be a good talking point for the show, and me and Logan have talked about it a little bit. Quentin Johnston, overrated. Overrated. 903. I'll read the stats. He doesn't sound overrated. 53 catches, 903 yards, 5 touchdowns.
5 touchdowns.
That's a decent. I mean, the touchdowns are low, but receptions and yards, that's 17 yards per catch. That's good. That's really good. But what did we say? 386 yards are in 2 games, and then he has the final game against K-State with another 139. Almost half of his yards are in 3 games. And don't get me wrong, those are arguably the 3 biggest games that y'all played in, so he showed up. But when you play Colorado, 3 catches for 22 yards, Tarleton, 3 for 22, SMU, 2 for 22, 3 for 29, 4 for 41. And then later in the season, he's in the 70s and high 60s. I'm almost wondering if he's getting a little bit more hype than he probably deserves. What do you think about that, Jared?
Yeah, I'd be curious on what his targets were those games too. I have some of the numbers in front of me, but I'm just going off of what I had on my eyeball test. Teams let the other receivers beat him pretty frequently. So he just didn't get the looks. It's hard to get what you want when you're getting double covered a lot.
And I feel that Xavier Worthy got double covered all freaking year and overthrown.
Right.
But.
And I think TCU has well above competent receivers elsewhere. You think Darius Davis, that dude's going to be returning punts and kicks in the NFL. You think of Savion Williams, he's another big body who's got some speed. Tay Barber's been there since the 90s, I think.
Yeah, feels like it.
And so you just and then we've really gotten some decent production from your former guy, Jared Wiley.
I don't even want to talk about him. I'm so mad. He's a stud. And
so, yeah, we've liked him. I've liked him.
Yeah.
And so I think you're right. I think if you watch the games where he puts up the big numbers, you can't stop watching him.
True.
Now, to go a little bit into your criticism, that guy can only catch with his chest, and so that's not going to be an NFL trait. I think it's not good.
Yeah.
It gets by in college when you're 6'4" and you're a freak athlete.
You're 3 inches taller than any corner that you play, except for against Ryan Watts over at Texas.
Right.
I mean, you look at Baylor's defensive backs; we're all 6 foot, 6'1" at the tallest, like 5'11", 5'10". Like, if you can just.
Well, we held Quentin Johnston pretty good. He had that one busted play. We had him to that one busted play, which, if I remember correctly, we had Terrence Brooks, I think, was in, and he's
I think he said it was a freshman.
That Texas game shows how you slow down a TCU offense. I mean,
only pressure. We sacked y'all 4 times.
Yeah, I don't know if this is relevant to the discussion, but our best corner, Will Johnson, the freshman who got 2 interceptions in the big championship, is 6'3".
That is important. That's 100%.
Just putting that out there.
If you think about it, Texas's number 1 DB last year was Deshaun Jameson, and he's 5'10", and we didn't line our number 1 guy up against Quentin Johnston. We lined our number 2 guy up because he's 6'3".
Yeah,
from Ohio State.
He plays like a
he transferred from Ohio State.
Quentin Johnston plays like a basketball player too. A lot of his routes, he almost runs like as if he's like a post player, receiving like a inbounds play. I mean, it's pretty fun to watch. I think we'll just kind of see. You're like, the criticisms I think are fair. I think watching the games, I feel like I have a little bit of a different opinion, but I think they're fair for the most part. If he shows up for this game, this is the one where people are going to be watching TCU, right? So, yeah, last time I saw he's projected to be one of the top receivers in the draft. And I think,
I don't know.
I think it's a classic NFL thing where it's like, and you see this with receivers mostly and defensive ends of, size, physical strengths, all the traits are great, productive somewhat in college. And you're like, well, I would love a guy who's also productive in college with those traits. I don't want, as a Cowboys fan, getting a DN who's like, oh, well, he had 5 sacks at Florida, over his career, but man, look at his.
But he's 6'9".
Yeah, this guy's amazing, and you're like, well, if he's so amazing, why didn't he get sacks at Florida? I wonder how that worked out.
Yeah, I mean, I think that this is going to be more on your second options like Tay Barber and Davis and Williams. I mean, kind of like how Baylor, we held him to like 48 yards or whatever, but Barber lit us up crazy. Like he had one play that went 80 yards.
And that's how, if you look at the stats or if you look at game log stuff, I think that paints a better picture of how TCU spread the ball. It's just they're not targeting their best guys; they're targeting the open guys. And so, if 1 week is Davis, the next week it's Barber, and 1 week it's Savion Williams.
I mean, y'all got 9 people that are over 100 yards receiving. Kendre Miller being one of them. 2 different tight ends.
So they spread the ball out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Daniel, give us where you think Michigan's going to exploit TCU. And then go ahead and lead us into maybe your score prediction and some bold predictions if you got them.
Yeah, so unfortunately, I got to be a little boring and repeat all the same talking points that you're going to get everywhere else. I think Michigan's going to overmatch TCU in the lines at the line of scrimmage, and that's going to be where Michigan wants to play the game. Whether TCU lets them play the game there, that's a whole different discussion. But if Michigan wins, it's because everything went through the line of scrimmage, and Michigan's guys are better coached and bigger at those respective positions. I would say score prediction. You guys were both saying before the video started that you were thinking that you wanted the over-under higher. I don't know. I think if Michigan is doing what they want to do on defense, they're also going to play slower on offense. If everything's going the way Michigan wants, the score is going to go down because Michigan's going to just run to keep TCU's offense off the field. They don't want to play.
Big Ten's thing is to run and run and run.
So my score prediction is probably going to be 30-22. That's what I'm going to put out there.
That's not bad.
30-22. Michigan's going to kick a few. I think Michigan's going to kick a few field goals, and I think on their last touchdown, TCU was going to go for a 2-point conversion to try and make it a 1-score game.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Make it. That's
what I'm envisioning in my mind. If that score is 30-22,
right to the spread, right? So I wasn't thinking about the spread. That kind of comes right out to the spread. That's kind of where I got it.
You're picking Michigan to cover.
By half a point.
That's an 8-point game. Okay. Yeah. Jared. And then we'll come back, Daniel. You can do the bold predictions.
Yeah. I just don't think I'm bold enough to say that TCU is going to win. I think if I'm honest, I think top 4 is a huge achievement. I think kind of where you see Michigan, Ohio State, Georgia are at. I think they're in a different tier. Georgia's in the semi-pro tier, and then everyone else.
Georgia in the field. Yeah. Give me Georgia.
I think it's going to be 34-28. I think that I probably agree with Daniel. I think Michigan's going to slow the game down, but I still think you're going to have a random busted play and TCU's going to score. I think they're going to still be able to show that they have speed, that they can put up points. My fear would be if I was watching that several years ago, was it that Washington, Alabama or something like that? Or who did Michigan State play? Was it also Alabama? Really any game against Alabama, against a obviously lesser opponent, I would have a fear that would be what TCU looks like.
I
You know,
don't
kind
see
of like
that.
just showing that they belonged. You know, even if they lose, just still with like 4 or 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter, and you're still thinking they're not out yet. That would be huge.
That'd be good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Logan, do you have a score prediction?
I don't know about a score prediction because I'm having trouble trying to figure out what I think is going to happen. Now, I don't know about Christian, but it seems like your friends here don't have too much hope in TCU, but I think TCU could pull this off, honestly, especially coming off a K-State loss, their first loss of the season. Max Duggan, we all saw the interviews after that and how he felt. I'm still seeing stuff about how he's distraught after losing that one. I mean, that alone could bring the team together, just be like, all right, look, we got to do this, like whatever it takes. Michigan's a great team. Like I told you, Daniel, whenever we were talking about the Penn State game, that I wasn't worried about them. TCU's been crazy over past my expectations for sure. But I don't know. I got a chance TCU might be able to sneak this one out in like a 3-point game, or Michigan could turn around and make it a 10-point win for them at the same time. I feel like it could go either way, personally.
Okay, so no prediction, but no numbers, but rather you're predicting a somewhere between a 10-point Michigan win or a 3-point TCU, so a 13-point gap. That's not too bad. You know, as a person who resides in the state of Texas, I have this small part of me that's like I should probably be really rooting for TCU. But then there's also that aspect of we've lost to TCU like 7 times in the last 10 years. And so it's hard for me to do so. And I've tried my hardest to put all that aside and just look at the game, look at where I think y'all's teams are going to match up, skill position to DB, running back to linebacker, O-line, D-line. Technically, I'm picking the under. Okay, it's 58.5. And I predict Michigan to win 34-24, which would be 58 points. So, and I think Daniel's probably, I'd already made my number. I think Daniel's probably onto something. If Michigan has the game go the way they wanted to, they're going to run the ball. TCU is more than capable of running the ball. So this could be an even lower scoring type of game. I don't know. There's been a lot of games this year where you're watching Michigan in the first half and you're kind of like, okay, Michigan, are y'all all right over there? And then they pull it out and they win. And then TCU, well, in a sense, right in the middle of the season, TCU kind of did the same thing back-to-back weeks where it was like first half just not there and then second half show up and start playing. But I almost feel like TCU's played more consistently towards the second half of the season, minus that K-State game. So I think it's going to be a good game.
I think TCU's played better competition, like throughout the whole season. Now I know Michigan's played Ohio State and Penn State, but who else have they played?
I would agree.
That's an arguable point.
I think that's an arguable point. I think the Big 12. I think people
pretty good.
I think it is. I think it's really good. I think there's that like you had like TCU had a chunk of that schedule. Now I know how OU and Kansas finished, so I'm not trying to say like, oh, look how many ranked teams they beat, but
yeah,
I think they did get through the ringer, and you're right. You come out with only one loss now in the conference championship, but it feels like
you almost lost this one.
Well, almost.
Yeah,
we gave it right back to you though. It's okay. You can have it.
I think a lot of other conferences look down on the Big 12 without taking into consideration the round robin schedule and how tough that can actually be to play every team every year. And there's a lot of parity in the Big 12. Like it really is. It really is crazy.
Very coming from the three
Big
12 guys.
The only thing I'd say to that is the Big 10, I would say, has a weaker bottom, a stronger top. I think no one's going to here's going to debate that.
No.
The only thing I will say is that Michigan might have played a slightly overall weaker schedule, but I think they played them better. Like TCU's games were closer overall throughout the season. So I don't know is that better schedule. It's not like they played a harder schedule and then had the same margin of victory. throughout, if you know what I mean. So
Yeah, I think the Big
you can only play who you
deserves
got.
respect in the sense of Michigan and Ohio State. I would pick over every Big 12 team. But when you look at a team that's usually at the bottom of the Big 12, like Kansas, I would pick over half of the Big 10, considering they beat half of the Big 12 this year. Thank goodness Texas didn't lose to Kansas again this year.
We didn't either. We're good.
Yeah, we can all rejoice. All right, Daniel, what's your bold predictions?
Okay, so I got an offensive one and a defensive one, right?
Blake Corum's running for 500 yards.
That would be
If Blake
so
Corum
sick.
plays, I'm picking Blake Corum.
If Blake Corum
175.
plays, I'm picking him for 30 yards because he's going to go out immediately when his knee hurts again. No, my offensive bold prediction is I think Michigan's going. If Michigan scores multiple pass TDs, the majority of them are going to come from tight ends. I think they're going to score. I think Colston Loveland, he's a true freshman. My bold prediction is Colston Loveland catches 2 touchdowns. That's my bold prediction as a tight end. And then defensive bold prediction. I'm going to say Michigan gets at least 3 turnovers, and one of them is a touchdown or is an interception by Will Johnson on Quentin Johnston. I'm going to say Will Johnson goes up and grabs it off of him.
TCU is not really known for throwing or giving the ball away this year.
That's why it's bold.
That's
really
why
bold.
It's bold.
Yeah, it is supposed to be bold.
It is really bold.
Jared, what you got for us, man?
So bold has no inclination on what I just said about how Michigan's going to probably win. But
yeah, these just have to be bold. They don't have to go with your prediction.
Kendre Miller gets 150, 2 touchdowns, and it's not garbage time.
That could very well happen.
And on defense, I'm going to say that TCU defense allows more field goals than touchdowns, and they only allow 3 field goals.
Oh, that's not bad.
I'm liking the underdog in this game. I don't know why. I hate TCU, but I'm liking the underdog.
Hey, I'm starting to get hyped up on this. Yeah, TCU's gonna win now.
Jared says I need to talk to Logan more often, dude.
You just gotta pop some of that.
If the Baylor guy is saying TCU, then what the heck is the TCU guy saying? So maybe I should start saying. Let me flip my scores around.
I think you should just
I'm gonna do. Trying to find some stats real quick. I'm gonna do one for Michigan. I think Michigan's gonna have 275 rushing yards. And here's on the basis of y'all are averaging 243 per game, and TCU's giving up 150 almost. So that's I really think I just need one more really good run out of y'all. I think y'all can have 275 total rushing yards. And I'm gonna say defensively. Let's see. Defensively, between linebacker Hodge and D Winters, I think those two together will combine for 3 sacks.
You
3
think
sacks in
McCarthy
one game.
gets sacked 3 times?
Probably, which actually really hurts my odds of y'all getting 275 total rushing yards.
I mean, running the ball is a great way to not get sacked. So
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
I'm looking at y'all's running back, and man.
So, okay, Christian. So you're right. TCU's run defense is bad, but when playing an elite running back, remind me what happened.
So TCU had a really good game against Bijan Robinson. I would say the difference is Quinn is not a quarterback where y'all really had to even worry about the pass. And JJ McCarthy is.
How did you do that? Did you scheme a bunch of people to the line and play cover 0, cover 1 with safeties pulled up? Because I can tell you about another team that did that exact thing to stop Michigan's run, and it did not end well.
That's a good idea to do.
I guess the question is
the thing is, in TCU, honestly, that's why y'all won I mean, if you look, the week before TCU, Bijan 209 yards, right? We played TCU, he gets 29 yards. The next week, Kansas, he has 243 yards. And then the next week, Baylor, 179 yards. So y'all played the perfect game. You stopped Bijan and you won. That is the winning
we stopped
formula for
Bijan and
us.
we made Quinn Ewers think, and we held him to them points.
He doesn't do that very well.
No, he doesn't.
He didn't come there to play school, you know.
I mean, hey, he was supposed to be in high school last year. I have tough criticism on him, but if he looks like this next year, then I'll be way more concerned. I'm not really concerned about him right now. Logan, you already gave your bold predictions?
No.
No?
No.
Okay. What do you think? You got any? If you don't have any, that's fine.
I got some for. I got one for TCU's defense and then one for their offense.
Okay.
I'm thinking between Newton and Hodges Tomlinson at DB, I think they're gonna get probably 4 passes.
Hey, Logan.
I know.
Not.
She's
Okay.
loud. She's enjoying her new jumper that she got.
Gotcha.
I'm thinking 4 passes defended, and I'm gonna say if I had to do an over under, probably 1.5 picks for the whole defense. Y'all's secondary is nasty. Now on the offensive side, scratch that. I don't have one for y'all's offense. I thought I did, but I don't. Because I was trying to think of okay, I might be able to throw numbers out there. I'm thinking probably.
Nothing you could say for TCU is that bold.
250 yards in the air
For TCU.
Yeah, and I don't think most of them are on the receiving end of Quentin Johnson either. I think a lot of them are going to go to Barber. Because Barber, if Michigan has any kind of breakdown on the defensive side, ask me how I know. Barber's going to catch the ball and run for 85 yards plus. He might not score, but he's going to get down to the 5 or to the 10.
I will say that is a Michigan classic this year. Is just letting people throw, but then not letting them get into the end zone and then frustrating them there. I mean, that was the big championship game all day, was Charlie Jones catching ball after ball, but never quite getting into the end zone. I think they kicked like 5 field goals. So, but the wrinkle there is that Aiden O'Connell's not a running quarterback, and I think red zone is where running quarterback really starts helping you out.
Yeah, for sure.
Pulling guys off. So, I don't know.
Well, all right. Do you have any more closing, Jared? Oh, yeah.
Yeah. My hope for this game is that Michigan forgets who they've been the last 18 months, 24 months, and revert back to the Michigan of old that we're all used to. So, as in not showing up for a big game. So we'll see.
I don't know. I like Harbaugh.
Don't worry, dude. It won't. If we win, it won't be a big game, so you don't have to worry about it.
Oh,
it's just
this is just another Saturday. Another Saturday.
Well, Michigan won, so it can't be a big game.
But if they lose, then it's because they didn't want to be.
Then Harbaugh's on the hot seat. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, he's looking for NFL jobs.
Yep.
Yeah, that's what it is. He wants to go play against his brother again.
Oh, you guys giving him PTSD.
Well, all right. If that's all we've got, then we will wrap it up. No more closing. I think it's going to be a good game. I did want to see the Michigan-Ohio State rematch, but I'm not mad at this.
I know.
No.
All right. Well, if y'all made it this far in the show, we really do appreciate y'all watching. Make sure to check us out on TikTok, Twitter, and Facebook at @LoneStar_CFB. And don't forget to give Casey Crutcher a call over at Rollo Insurance. If you live in the state of Texas, New Mexico, Utah, Georgia, Colorado, Oklahoma, or Tennessee, he might be able to help you save some money on your home, auto, life, health, and business commercial insurance. He was able to save me and my wife $40 a month, and he might be able to do the same for y'all. With all that being said, appreciate y'all rocking with us. Welcome.